There's a super exciting opportunity for developers that just launched. I'm talking about the Flamingo Finance Dashboard-ATHON. This competition invites you to show off your skills by creating a wicked DeFi dashboard powered by the Flamingo API and the Neo blockchain. What's really dope though is it doesn't matter if you're solo or part of a team. There's a chance to win a pretty nice amount in prizes and gain some recognition in the Neo blockchain and the Flamingo Finance community. But let's say you're kind of new to the development game and just not sure how to get started building something like this. Well, guess what? You're in luck because I'm going to show you step by step how to get started building your very own DeFi dashboard. First, we'll get started building a front end, which is basically like the look and feel of your dashboard. And then we'll get our back end working, which is actually going to fetch the data from Flamingo. To help developers get started, Flamingo has generously set up a GitHub repo that we'll download. This repo contains all APIs and developer documentation, image assets for tokens, pool data, and much more. I've also attached my own repo in the description with the code needed to follow along in this guide. And if you need further help, there's also a special dev support channel on the Flamingo Finance Discord, which also kind of serves as like a help center if you get stuck or have questions at any point in your project. Are you ready? Let's jump into it. Okay, so first things first, you need the tools to build your dashboard and compile your code that's going to make it all run. Visual Studio Code, also commonly referred to as VS Code, is basically a Swiss Army knife for coding. It's a lightweight yet really powerful tool that helps you write, edit, and manage your code efficiently with handy features and plugins. You'll be using VS Code a lot, so meet your new best friend. Head on over to code.visualstudio.com to download and install VS Code. You'll also want to install Git. Git is like a magic book that helps you keep track of changes you make to your code. It's pretty much essential for collaborating with others and managing versions of your project. You can download Git from git-scm.com and install it on your computer. With VS Code and Git installed, you'll have everything you need to start building your dashboard. So go ahead and open up your command prompt and let's clone or download the official Flamingo repo. To do this, go to Start and type in CMD. And hit enter. You can think of the command prompt like a special chat window where you can talk directly to your computer using text commands. It's where you can type things like clone this code from GitHub or run this program, and your computer will do what you ask. So when we clone a repo from GitHub using the command prompt, we're basically telling our computer to download a copy of someone else's code, in this case, the code Flamingo has provided, so that we can use this code as the foundation to build our dashboard. Once you have the command prompt open, by default, it'll be pointed at your user directory on Windows or Mac. For this example, we're going to navigate the command prompt to our desktop to clone the repo. To do this, enter cd space desktop and hit enter. The cd command stands for change directory, which we'll be using quite frequently. You'll see the directory change, and now you're at your desktop. Next, go to the Flamingo repo and click the green button that says Code, and copy the URL. Go back to your command prompt, type git clone space and paste the URL using Ctrl-Command-V and press enter. This will basically download the folder to your desktop. Once you do this, type cd fl, hit tab, and it'll automatically fill in the folder you just downloaded. Go ahead and hit enter to enter that directory. Of course, you can simply download the zip file which contains this folder and then open up that folder with VS Code. However, as a developer, I think it's really important to familiarize yourself with using the command prompt. Now, we need to install the necessary packages to get started with our project. In the command prompt, type npm install Axios and press enter. This will install Axios, which is a package we'll be using to make HTTP requests in our dashboard project. But hold on. What are HTTP requests? Well, you can think of them as messages that are sent between different parts of the internet, kind of like how you order food online or send an email. Axios helps us send and receive these messages, allowing our dashboard to interact with Flamingo's data seamlessly. So by installing Axios, we're equipping our project with the tools it needs to fetch data and bring our dashboard to life. Now, let's dive into Vue.js, a popular framework for building web interfaces. Vue.js is like the architect of your web project. It helps you organize and manage all the different parts of your website, like buttons, forms, and images, making it easier to create cool stuff. Compared to other frameworks like React or Angular, Vue.js is simpler and more beginner-friendly. But honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you use, they all get the job done. For this demonstration though, we'll be using Vue.js because it's straightforward and it works great for what we're doing. To get started with Vue.js, we first need to create a new project using the Vue CLI. If you haven't installed it yet, no worries. Just run npm install-g at vue/cli. Once installed, navigate to your project directory and run vue create frontend. This will set up a new Vue project for you in a folder called frontend. When prompted, choose the Vue 3 preset, which is the latest version. Once it's done, you can run npm run serve to launch the development server. Be sure to change directories into your frontend folder before running npm run serve. Keep in mind though, this is a default page and component that Vue sets up, and we'll be removing this to set up our own components from scratch. Go ahead and close this tab and hit Ctrl or Command-C twice to terminate the server. After creating the Vue project, let's reorganize our folder structure to integrate existing resources. For this, we'll now open our folder up with VS Code. Type cd to go one directory up. Now type code space period to open your project up in VS Code. On the left side, you'll now see the contents of your folder, including the front-end folder that was just created by Vue. Your project structure should look something like this. You're going to want to drag the contents of the assets folder provided by Flamingo into the assets folder inside of source. So let's go ahead and do that. And then delete the empty assets folder. But before we go deeper, let's spruce up our project with some styling. We'll be using TailwindCSS, a utility-first CSS framework that makes styling a breeze. Also, side note, from here on out, please refer to the GitHub repo I've created for the code snippets you'll need to follow along. You don't need to clone this repo, it's just there to help you follow along faster. In your command prompt, change directories into your front-end folder. Once you're in there, install TailwindCSS in your Vue project by running the following two commands. The first one is npm install-d TailwindCSS at latest, postcss at latest, and autoprefixer at latest. Go ahead and hit enter. And then you're going to want to type npx TailwindCSS init-p. This configures Tailwind with postcss and creates tailwind.config.js and postcss.config.js in your Vue project directory. Next, you'll want to configure Tailwind to remove unused styles by editing tailwind.config.js and replacing the code starting from module.exports, like this. Then, create a CSS file called styles.css inside of source/assets to include Tailwind styles, and paste this code inside. And import the CSS file in your source/main.js file by including this line of code. And voila! Your Vue.js project is all set up and ready to go. Just run npm run serve in your command prompt to start your development server. Now you can start building out your Vue components, importing the API client you have in the JS directory as needed to fetch and display data from the Flamingo API. Now that we've got our project environment beautifully set up, it's time to start creating our layout. I won't get too deep into the specifics of the code. However, I've left comments in the code that explain what each line or section does. First, let's delete some stuff we don't need. Earlier, when you launched a development server with npm run serve, what you were seeing was the hello world.vue component. Go ahead and delete that file. When you delete this file, you'll see a compilation error in the browser, but don't worry about this, as we'll be fixing that by replacing the hello world component with the new component. Next, create a new file in the components folder called main-dashboard.vue. Component names should always be multi-word, but it's not necessary to follow these exact capitalization standards for the component names, although this convention is considered good practice, so we'll stick with it. This file will serve as the main page and will be structured to include various sections as components, such as the section which contains the token prices. Now, paste the code provided for the main dashboard.view component. As you can see, we create a simple div, which is sort of like a container, and inside of that div, we have our token prices component. Now, let's create another component called token prices.view and paste the code provided inside. This structure makes your dashboard modular, making each component responsible for a specific part of the UI and functionality. It enhances the readability of your code and simplifies debugging and future enhancements. By following these steps, you can effectively integrate and manage multiple components within your dashboard. Now, before we can run this, we need to change a couple of things in our app.view file. It's currently coded to use the default Hello World component, which we already deleted. So we basically have to replace that with our new main dashboard component instead. You can simply paste the code provided or follow along as I remove irrelevant code and change what's needed. First, I'll delete the style code block below. Since we're using TailwindCSS, we don't need this down here anymore. Now the last step is to modify the template code above to actually render our main dashboard component. Delete these two lines of code and replace them with div id equals app and then main dashboard. Next, we'll change the import line as well as the Hello World component text below that. This is just essentially telling Vue which component to load. Go ahead and save this file. You'll see that the compilation error is now resolved and your dashboard has come to life. It dynamically updates the prices for these tokens, and I also added a little visual flair so that when prices go down, the background turns red, or when prices go up, the background turns green. You can also right-click and select Inspect to open up your Chrome DevTools and click Network to see the data that your dashboard is receiving every 15 seconds from the Flamingo API. And there you have it, your very first DeFi dashboard that not only looks good thanks to TailwindCSS, but also functions perfectly, fetching and displaying data as needed. In our next video, we'll explore more advanced features, such as connecting a Neoline wallet and retrieving data associated with the wallet address. Stay tuned, hit like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Best of luck to everyone joining in on this dashboard-a-thon. Let's keep innovating and may the best dashboards win. Peace.